Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with my review and final diagnosis on the Peter Rassenti Satori. So this is my second custom knife from Peter Rassenti. I had the Nirvana a while back that was tragically lost in a stupid mistake that I made in New York City. But because of that, Peter reached out to me and said that he would help me to reincarnate my Nirvana, and this is what came of that discussion. So this is the Satori. So Satori means the moment that you reach self-understanding. It's like the sudden nirvana. And this is pretty much that for me. This Satori provided me with a sudden nirvana. I lost it, and then suddenly this was in my life. So the name is really befitting of this knife, and I really, really like that. This has been really, really nice for me to carry. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've carried this a whole lot. I'm not really a heavy use kind of a person, so I don't abuse my knives, but it's been really nice to have this, and I've learned a whole lot about it, and I'm really excited to share with you a little bit of the details. So let's break this knife down anatomically and understand what we're working with. Up front is a 3.75-inch blade of beautifully mirror-washed CPM 154. Now my camera is going absolutely crazy because of the reflections and everything, and that is because this thing is so bright and reflective. I don't think the camera is really going to capture the beauty that's in that blade. Really high mirror polish, and then it was gently stonewashed to give it a really nice user finish. It's still highly reflective. Trying not to capture my face on there, but that little stonewash means that you don't have to feel bad about putting any marks on it. I love the grind. This extremely deep hollow grind is absolutely amazing. The way that it rolls all the way down to this incredibly fine tip. Now this grind is not going to be for everyone, and to be perfectly honest, it's not my favorite overall user grind, but that's sort of beside the point, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. This is a recurve with a Tanto style tip. You could call it a modified Tanto, a modified recurve, a modified clip point, harpoon swedge. I don't know what you would call this. I'll call this the Satori grind because it's very unique. I haven't seen many other knives with something that looked like this on there. It is absolutely spectacular. The deep hollow means that it slices really well. It's about 0.16 on the blade stock right there. But it does slice really well. I did some competitive sort of cutting with a few other knives, so I'll bring a couple of them out here. I had my 0392, and by competitive cutting, I mean that I sort of cut up some apples and some cardboard, and I tested a few of these knives sort of informally. Here's a Brian Nadeau Mini Typhoon. I had the 0055 out there, and of all of these knives, this one actually slices the best because of that really nice deep hollow grind. The rest of these have flat grinds, and so it doesn't really slice quite as well in some of those kind of everyday cutting tasks. But this one surprisingly does, even with that really weird tip. What I've also noticed with that tip is that allows you almost a razor-like surface to push like that and scrape with. It allows you a tip, so if you're opening a box, you can put it right into the tape and it draws it across like a Tanto. And it just gives you sort of the best of both worlds. Now, the one major drawback here is pretty obvious for those of us that like to maintain our own knives. Sharpening that is going to be a bear. I am not that good at sharpening, so I would have to send this to somebody to get it done. And a lot of folks are probably that way. So a little bit of a drawback there in terms of that grind. I love that he added these thumb studs, or not thumb studs, they're really actually stop lugs. They stop the blade in this position, and they stop the blade in this position, and he's done it to the same finish as the rest of the knife. We'll get into that finish in just a minute. Moving back, this does run on GTC ball bearings, so that's Gustavo Cecchini. These are ceramic ball bearings in there, and they're ultra smooth. I do not have another knife, just like the Nirvana, I don't have another knife that's got this same level of smoothness. It just falls closed in the most amazing way. It's not even a guillotine, it's just this really nice hydraulic smooth closure. It's incredible. Now, I did tune that ever so slightly when I took the knife apart, but really, there's not a lot of tuning involved. This thing sits very, very centered. You can go and check out my knife surgery video where I actually disassembled this. It's a very simple construction. These are zirconium screws that screw into either side of a bushing pivot. And so you can really tighten down on those and you're not going to mess up the action of the knife. And then you have the ball bearing. So very simple construction, very easy to maintain. And so that was really happy. I was really happy to see that. It has one of the most perfect detents of any knife I've ever felt. Just an excellent, excellent detent. It does not really open with these thumb studs or stop lugs, whatever you want to call them. You can try to push on it, doesn't really work. The one thing about that mirror finish, I just touched it and there is a little fingerprint on there. It is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, so I try to keep my fingers off of it because I love the way it looks all the time. Back to the action, super nice detent, amazing flipper. You can do that all day long and not get tired. And the main reason you can do that all day long is because Peter did me a huge favor and he rounded the tips of the flipper tab. On the standard Satori, those are sharp angles, and I asked him to round them off, and man, did he do that, and did he do that perfectly. This is super comfortable. Peter, for the remainder of your Satoris, man, I just highly recommend that you do this. It's so comfortable. You can use this all day long, and it changes completely the character of the knife in terms of using it as an EDC. So moving back to the handles, we've got these beautiful this beautiful piece of 5 inches of titanium. So, you know, I have to remember that this is an integral handle. This is the key component to this knife and to all Peter Rassenti's work. One piece of very high quality titanium milled out perfectly to accommodate this blade. And it is masterfully done. Look at the tolerances here. Just beautiful. The way that you can't even see that blade, the way that it fits in there, the way that that hollow grind tucks into the knife. It's just masterful. It's so, so, so well done. Look at the profile here. And then here. Just such a good looking knife. Absolutely love that. Now I wanted the finish to be similar to my Nirvana, so I asked him to do the same finish. He calls this his wire wheel finish. It is a beautiful and tactile, wonderful, wonderful finish that does not show any wear. He stonewashed it, I presume, after that, because that's what it looks like a little bit, and it's just the most user finish possible. I've carried this over and over and over again in a lot of different settings, and it has not shown any wear. The pocket clip back here is also made of zirconium. This is the one point of contention that I have with this knife, and I need to be perfectly honest about it. Peter's clips are not the best, and that is because they do not ride very high off of the material, off of the handle, so it's hard to get the material into that little wedge right there. Moreover, they do not ride high off the handle over here, so not a whole lot of material wants to go in there. Things can get bound up pretty early in this. And to make matters worse, this clip is zirconium, which is even less flexible than a titanium clip. So I can show you there's some flex to it, but it's not a whole lot. And to be honest, this edge right here is also a little sharp, so when I grab at it with my fingernail, it sort of is uncomfortable. But that's really sort of some smaller points. But what we have to keep in mind here is that this knife really skirts the line between user and art. And I think in that regard, Peter really nails it. And so what is my final diagnosis here? My final diagnosis is functional art. You can really carry this knife. It is truly functional. It has some of the best flipping action I've ever seen. It has one of the best user finishes I've ever seen on any knife. And it's absolutely beautiful to look at. But you have to keep that element of art in mind because the blade is not exactly the most user-friendly. The clip and the zirconium are not the most user-friendly. The integral construction can be sort of intimidating to some. So you have to keep that in mind. But he has executed this beautifully, and I absolutely adore it. So thank you to Peter for making me a knife so similar to my Nirvana. I've been so thrilled to have this in my collection. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful knife. Click like and subscribe to my channel here. Go follow me on Instagram at Dr. Frunkey. And as always, take care.